What the Tech is sponsored by Hover.com. Domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ. Welcome everybody to What the Tech. I am a very muggy and a complainer, as Paul says. The complainer, Andrew Zarian, and I'm joined by Paul, the $1 Million Man Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Good. How are you?
Very hot and very muggy in the studio today. We're having a heat wave here on the East Coast. For people who don't live in New York or in the Boston area, it is about 200 degrees on the East Coast and rising. For people who watch our programs, they know how bad it gets over the summer in the studio. Right now it's 85 degrees, and it'll probably hit about 92 by the time we're done with the show. So I'll be. And in
case the thermal dynamics of this are not obvious, when you're in a room full of computers and electronics, it's worse.
Well, here's the thing, Paul. I don't know if you guys could see, but there's a computer there. There's a computer there. There's a computer there. There's a laptop there. There's one underneath here. There's monitors all around me. So it's like I've placed myself in the oven.
You should put on those little glasses you put on when you go in a tanning bed.
You know what? I don't use those glasses when I go tanning, and I'm a tanning expert. I go tanning every week. It's very bizarre. I want to look like a burnt turkey.
As you can see from my pasty complexion, I do not.
Yeah, Paul and I are the same complexion. If you look side by side, it's the same skin tone. I just like to change the color bounce, the white bounce on my camera.
Right.
He's very bright, and I'm
as white as the door behind me.
Yeah. You know what? You do some parts of your face. They do match the door.
They just literally, they melt into the background.
This is This Week in Tanning. I'm your host, Andrew Zarian. No, this is What the Tech, and we discuss not necessarily tech news, but things that we want to talk about. And Paul, before the start of the show, said that I like to complain a lot, which I do. And I have to agree with him. It was kind of
an off-the-cuff observation.
I do like to complain, and I have a lot to complain about today.
I said it in an endearing way.
I know. Well, you like to complain too.
Of course.
I had two products I was going to review on the show, and I was going to discuss with Paul, but my wife took both of them from me. One is the iPad 3 that AT&T sent me to review, which I have to send back on Thursday. But I have to tell you, Paul, the display, I did not think this display would be that drastic of a difference. It is stunning, the display on that product.
The way I would say it is, honestly, when I first brought it up, on the home screen, I'm like, I don't quite get what the big deal is here. But granted, I use the iPad in very limited ways, and by that I mean literally in two ways. I read books and periodicals through the Kindle software, and I watch videos. Once you load up the Kindle software, which that day was upgraded for that display, and you put a book in there, the text quality is amazing, and it really, really makes a difference.
Yeah, I was reading, I think it was the New York Times. I just pulled up their website to see, what it's going to be like to read small text, and you could see, very fine text. You could see that.
That's a good point. I bumped down the font size because it's so crisp. It's like it makes your eyes better. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I was playing around with that all week, so we've been using both. The 4G, excellent. I do have to say, though, the Verizon 4G is a lot faster. It's nearly double the speed in my location.
I wonder if that. I was gonna say. I think it's location dependent.
Now, I did use it in Manhattan also, and Verizon was better in Manhattan.
And you have an AT&T iPad.
Yeah. I have an AT&T.
I also have the AT&T version. I've only used it so far here and in Vegas.
But the comparison I was
excited
making,
to get LTE in Vegas. It worked well.
The comparison I was making, they weren't both iPads, so it might not be a fair comparison. So I'm not going to hold that against it. I was using my Nexus Galaxy.
The one thing I will say, the perennial advantage of the iPad has always been the battery life of the device. Mm-hmm. And obviously the iPad 3, the new iPad, whatever it's called, the battery life is still great, but it is demonstrably worse than it was with the iPad 2. I find myself well below 20% battery life. I mean, I don't think I ever got the iPad 2 that low, and way more frequently need to plug it in.
Well, have you noticed that it takes a lot longer to charge?
Well, I don't really notice that because I plug it in overnight, but I've heard that. That's not a concern for me because of the way I use it. But
I mean, I would say maybe 40% longer to charge to a full capacity.
I mean, we're picking nits at this point. I mean,
phenomenal.
The battery life is fantastic, but I mean, it felt like before I would do things like fly cross country, and I would watch a movie, and when the movie was over, I would check the battery life, and it would say like 95%, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me, I do that now, and it's like 65%. I mean, it's not even close, but it's still, I mean, way better than almost all devices, and certainly most laptops and things like that.
Well, the bad news for me now is that I'm probably going to end up buying the iPad 3 because my wife doesn't. I mean, I have the iPad 2, so the new iPad, she has been using it. So now when I have to give it back, like, it's going to be weird for her. She said she actually fell in love with the device over the week. Like, she didn't understand it until she had it in her hands for an entire week. So she loves the device.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know that this is out yet. Let me just check my site. I wrote an editorial that's going to go up today. It literally just posted. So
for winsupersite.com.
Yeah, it's for Windows IT Pro, and it kind of cross-posts to my site. But it's about the research that Gartner did about tablet sales and where they expect things to go over the next 4 years. And I did a little bit of math because I wanted to see where things were. In other words, they expect that by 2016, tablet sales will grow to about 360 something million. I can't find
370.
370 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a little bit higher right now, but roughly comparable to the size of the PC market today.
Yeah.
And so you can make some sort of guesses as to some of those sales are going to come from PCs. What will the combined market for tablets plus PCs look like? In other words, general purpose computing devices, 2 years from now, 4 years from now, things like that.
I mean, currently, I believe that they've stated that they're expecting 118 million tablets to be sold this year. And that number to go to 180 million by 2013.
Yeah, and the problem for Microsoft is that only a small percentage of those tablet sales are anticipated to be Windows, based on what Gartner's saying. So I looked at it in sort of it's probably not a worst case scenario, but a really bad case scenario. In other words, if PC sales drop by 1/3, by 2016, Windows combined on PCs and tablets will still dramatically outsell the iPad.
Well, let me say something here, Paul, because I'm looking at this stat, right, that they stated, and they're claiming that Windows 8 will have 4.15% of tablet sales in 2012. You're talking about 1 quarter. Because they're probably going to release them in the 4th quarter, the Windows 8 tablets.
Yeah.
So you're talking a 5% chunk out of that market in 3 months. And this is their estimate, or 5 million units.
That's like launch hysteria. I think there's going to be a little bit of that. I think the more alarming aspect of this is just that it never really gets very high. I mean,
I think it's going to be a lot higher, Paul. I mean, I
do too. But you know what? I just want to be realistic about it. In other words, if Windows 8 really only amounts to 12% of the tablet market in 2016, what does that mean? What does the market look like? And if the sale of PCs drops by 1/3 instead of, recently it's been flat or growing very small, single-digit growth, right? So if PC sales literally drop off a cliff, they fall by 35%. Windows is still a much bigger product than the iPad. In fact, or Android, but it is that three-way race that I've always sort of anticipated for the future, right? So 2016, we're talking about 245 million combined units of Windows on PCs and tablets, 170 million iPads, and 138 million Android devices, tablets. Not quite a three-way tie, but absolutely a three-way market. And I think that's why this is a big deal. So when you talk about your wife who, now she has it and she's like, wow, I don't know if I can give this up. My wife right now is on a trip with my kids to visit her parents, and she took the iPad 2 because she's going to be doing a writing project that involves what might become an iPad app, and she doesn't care for or use such a device. But I'm going to be curious to see when she gets back if she says, maybe I want to start reading the Kindle still, because she does Kindle whatever on there, on whatever device, and maybe now she wants to do it on the iPad too. I'm going to be very curious to see what she says about it when she gets back.
How long has she been using it? The iPad since the
she
launch,
just got
or?
it. She left yesterday, so she's now has it on a trip. So when she gets back over the weekend, I'll ask her and we'll see what happens. But there's a very positive reaction I think that hits most people when they use these things, where it's like I can get a lot of stuff done on this, and it's way simpler than a Mac or a PC.
Yeah, I think for many it's enough. For the enthusiasts, it'll never be enough. It'll also be like an add-on device. But I mean, these stats, I don't know, 12% only by 2016, according to this, for Windows 8 tablets.
No, I disagree too. But
I mean, but people people forget that Microsoft does have brand recognition? I mean, that does exist. And when people go to buy a computer, most people buy a Windows computer.
Yeah,
they buy a PC.
Sure, but this is the new market,
I don't think they'll top the iPad because I think Apple has kind of created the tablet market that we know currently. Before the iPad came along, a tablet was a convertible laptop.
Yeah.
So
I think what Apple did was create something that is very typical for Apple. It's a wonderful product at what it does. There are certain things it just doesn't do. Some of the current things that it doesn't do is connect to USB in any way, shape, or form. You're not going to add storage to. You're not going to add like a hard drive and be able to watch movies off the hard drive on a plane, which would be kind of nice, or whatever. They just don't do certain things. There are people who love that they don't do certain things and appreciate that. There are other people who just need other capabilities, and I think there's a big market for people who like the idea of something that's like an iPad, but you plug it into a dock and it turns into a PC.
Do you think that's going to be the future of the device?
No, I think that is the future of Windows 8. I mean, that's the point. These WinRT devices, these Windows on ARM devices are going to be things that can be tablets most of the time, but you can plug them into a dock and, it's a full-fledged PC with a keyboard, a mouse, big monitor, all that stuff. Are
you currently still using the Windows 8 tablet that you had, or are you?
Yep. No, I use it every day.
Have you noticed any difference what do you think of it as far as long-term use?
Well, this one's kind of tough because this is a prototype device. It's not a shipping kind of hardware. So the battery life is not great. The fan is a little loud. It's kind of it's something that was kind of thrown together. But it gives you this idea. And I have to say, the one thing I like about the device a lot is you take it on a plane like you would an iPad, and you can take it out, you can read on it, you can watch movies on it. It is a PC, so you can do these little things like you can have movies or content or whatever you want, documents on a micro SD card that plugs into the side of the thing. It has USB 3 ports, so you can add storage to it. It has a dock. You can plug in a keyboard, a mouse, an external display. I actually have done things like it's USB 3 based, so I have a USB 3 extender, like one of those port extender things, and I've actually tacked on three terabyte USB 3 drives to this thing and done all this crazy stuff with Windows 8 storage spaces feature, and it works great. It's nice.
I don't know if you could see what I have here.
Yeah.
I'm running Windows 8 on my my iPad.
Right.
And the way I'm doing it is I'm remoting into my Windows 8 laptop with my iPad. There's a software. I forgot the name of it. Do you remember the name? Is that
Splashtop or something?
Splashtop, yeah. And so
it's remote desktop. I mean,
it's remote desktop, and it works pretty well.
Yeah.
It's not totally fast, but it's very interesting to see how it'll be on a tablet. And I gave it to my wife, and she was playing around with it, and she liked it a lot. But she was saying how it's almost like your mind automatically currently goes to default to these icons. And like she was like, it was like I had to get used to it. I had to understand, like, okay, it's not an iPad. They're not little icons. Like, this is actually a integrated device. But I don't know if anybody else has tried it.
There's no doubt that the iPad, for all its simplicity, is fairly obvious. You tap on something, it opens an app, whatever. Windows 8 is more sophisticated, but it's also more complex as a result, right? I mean, Windows 8 supports all those live tiles, which provide additional information, which is nice, but it also relies very heavily on edge UIs or corner UIs that are not necessarily discoverable. And once you know how they work, you can be this really efficient power user, but it's not obvious right away. So, there's always that trade-off.
Yeah.
It gives you the additional capabilities, but a little harder to use.
So this is fascinating. So since we're on the Microsoft topic, I guess I'll go ahead into this.
Okay.
Head first into this. Microsoft announced that it's officially called Windows 8, which,
Right.
that's great news. Now we know. And they also announced what different versions of Windows they're going to have. Windows 7, they had Windows 7 Starter, Home Basic, Home Premium, Ultimate. I think that was it, right? They had 4 of them.
Professional or
they had professional, enterprise. So there was like 6 of them.
Yeah.
Microsoft announced they're going to have. I'm just going to Windows 8 Pro, Windows 8 Enterprise, Windows 8 RT. Right.
It's okay. So actually, there's Windows 8. There's like a base version just called Windows 8. Which, by the way, thank God for that. Like not Home or some stupid
just
name.
Windows 8.
Windows 8. Good. Nice. Windows 8 Pro, superset, adds some business features aimed at businesses, obviously, but also enthusiasts and people who want the full meal deal, and that's cool. Good. That's it, retail. I mean, you go to a store to buy this thing, you buy an Intel-compatible computer. That's what you're getting. It's going to be one of the two.
I mean, it's equivalent to like Ultimate, right? Windows 8 Pro.
Yeah, actually, I would harken this back. Really, the Windows lineup hasn't been this simple since the day that Windows XP shipped, because they later screwed it up. But right in the beginning, you had Home and you had Professional, and that's it. And that's what we see. I mean, it's Home and Professional, so same thing. The other versions are just, there's an enterprise version that's only going to be available for people on Microsoft's volume licensing scheme, so we don't have to worry about that. They, for some reason, mentioned that there's going to be a China-specific language version, so people are kind of adding that as an extra version, but obviously that doesn't count either.
That doesn't count either.
And then there's this ARM version, which they used to call Windows on ARM or WOA, and now they're calling Windows RT. Not Windows 8 RT for some reason, but Windows RT.
What's the RT for?
Well, the underlying API that's part of this Metro-style environment is called Windows RT for Windows Runtime. It's the new Windows runtime. Presumably it stands for that. They might make something up. I mean, Windows NT, the marketing.
Maybe Windows Mobile, Windows 8 Mobile.
Probably not going to use mobile.
No, okay. but one could only hope.
Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting when you compare them. The ARM version of Windows, the Windows RT product, basically aligns to the Home version. The basic Windows 8 package. A couple of differences, right? It supports full disk encryption, full device encryption, which you can get in the Pro version of Windows 8 through BitLocker, but different technology apparently, or at least differently named, and probably on automatically. And of course, it comes with those 4 Office apps, which you don't see. And it's missing a couple of things. It's missing Windows Media Player and, curiously, storage spaces, which is that feature I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Kind of an advanced storage feature. I mean, it's not such a huge loss for those kind of devices, I guess.
But, I mean, it's going to be on an ARM device. I mean, you're not really... It's not like this is what the computer's coming with. Well, no, they're going to have ARM-based computers.
So this is a big if, and I wish... I always wish for clarity, and I never receive it. But I'm writing a book about Windows 8, so I try to describe things in ways where it's immediately obvious what I'm talking about. So we have these Intel and compatible computers, which I think of as PCs. And then we have these ARM-based things, tablets mostly, but not just tablets, which kind of confuses things. But I think of those as devices. And I describe them that way. That's how I mention them. The problem is Microsoft has gone both ways. So as they were announcing Windows 8 last year and talking about it originally, they used to talk about things like Windows-based devices, which to them meant PCs and tablets. And then in this most recent announcement, they mentioned that this Windows RT product will ship on ARM-based PCs and tablets, was the way they said it. So there are going to be things that resemble traditional PCs, which I take to mean both desktops and laptops. I mean, hybrid devices, I don't know, that are in fact based on ARM, that will run Windows RT. Yeah.
So I guess
this is going to confuse things.
This is going to get confusing when it's like a netbook.
Well, it's because
But we haven't.
I think
they
there's an
haven't
assumption that a user
though.
makes when they see a computer that runs Windows, which is perfectly logical, that this thing would in fact run Windows applications. And of course, the problem with the ARM-based version of the product is it does not run traditional Windows applications, aside from those aforementioned Office apps that are part of the product.
But there's no confirmation currently on this. That's
what do you mean? No, there is a confirmation.
No. I mean, have they said that we are going to see? Have manufacturers started saying that they are going to start producing ARM-based laptops?
Yes. Well, that's not how they said it.
That's not how they said it. Okay.
So, in fact, let's just go to the official blog
because
post.
That's what I'm curious about on how this is going to play out when it's a laptop and not a tablet.
A year ago, when Microsoft announced they were doing an ARM version, or ARM versions, as it turns out, of Windows 8, they said that they would market this thing in such a way that it would be obvious what the difference was between traditional PCs and the ARM versions. Okay. But in this blog post, let me see if I can find it. Yes, here it is. He says, Windows RT is the newest member of the Windows family. This single edition will only be available pre-installed on PCs and tablets powered by ARM processors.
Okay.
Neat.
Yeah.
So that means that OEMs, PC makers, hardware makers, whatever you want to call them, are going to be able to make. It's not just for tablets, I guess is my point.
Okay.
You could have a netbook form factor. You could have a Mac Mini little kind of computer, something you might put out in the living room, although Media Center is not included and never will be.
But they won't be able to upgrade, right? They can't upgrade to a higher version.
Right.
That's where.
Now, that's not a big deal right now. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, why would they be able to upgrade? It's a different, they're not going to sell it as software. The question is going to be what happens down the road. So when Windows 9 comes out and you have a Windows RT device, is there going to be an upgrade to Windows RT 9 or whatever they call that? Or are they going to treat this like an appliance, where what you see is what you get? This thing is this. It's just the way it is. I
mean, that would be a first for them, right? It's not upgradable.
This itself is a first for them. So there's no precedent for this. We don't know. One of the things that, and again, I'm not trying to plug my book. I'm more trying to complain.
Plug away, Paul.
No, and I'm not plugging. I mean, but one of the things I kind of wrestle with is it's early. I don't have a Windows RT device. The theory here, and Microsoft says this, in fact, the way they describe it is these devices will enable, or this processor architecture, it will enable new thin and lightweight form factors with impressive battery life. So in other words, one of the trade-offs that we're sort of expecting is, okay, it doesn't run Windows applications from before, but it will get killer battery life, kind of like an iPad. Okay. So, but it's also limited in other ways, it's not just that. And we don't know about the future. They've never done this before. We don't know how they're going to treat these people. Do they just say, hey, look, and we don't know what the pricing is going to be. I mean, will these devices be significantly less expensive than Intel-compatible computers? And if so, is there really an assumption that you're going to get some kind of an upgrade in the future? Or are you stuck with what you get?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right with that.
We just don't know.
It's listen, I'm sure someone's going to hack this thing and they're going to be able to put, Pro and 8, but you shouldn't have to.
But normal people are going to buy it.
Yeah, normal people.
And maybe normal people don't expect to upgrade either.
Yeah, but you know what? That's the thing. Do normal people upgrade Windows? Most of the time, they don't. Windows is not a great selling software.
I'll tell you something, though. I will tell you this, and maybe this is going to change, but my experience upgrading with Windows 8, i.e. from Windows 7 to Windows 8, has been so much better than it's ever been with any previous version of Windows. In fact, it's actually better than a clean install on most of my computers, which is a bizarre thing. This is completely unprecedented. So, maybe that is changing. I don't know. I will tell you, for whatever it's worth, that upgrading on Windows 7 is a different proposition. Yeah. Windows 8.
I do want to say, if you're in our chat room, you could change your nickname. I see there's about 90 people in there. You could change it by clicking on menu and change nickname if you want to join in on the chat and participate with us.
By the way, I will throw out one thing for the people who are kind of come in here from Twitter, maybe. I've gotten some questions about some of the features that are in each of the versions, and one of the big ones that Microsoft never mentioned was Windows to Go, and where it is, and how do you get it?
Yeah. What's going on with that?
I asked, and they refused to comment on that, and they don't have anything to say about that right now. So my expectation is that Windows to Go will not be a feature of Windows RT, for starters. If I were a betting man, and I'm not, it would not surprise me to discover that they only make this technology available to volume license customers.
Oh, you think Enterprise?
Yeah. If you look at the chart that's in their blog post, their horribly incomplete chart, there's a little note at the bottom that says, oh, by the way, we also have another edition we didn't talk about earlier. Just kidding. It's called Windows 8 Enterprise, and it includes all of the features of Windows 8 Pro plus features for IT organizations that enable PC management and deployment, advanced security, virtualization, new mobility scenarios, and much more. Well, Windows to Go is a new mobility scenario. And I'm sorry, but what that tells me almost certainly is that Windows to Go is a Windows 8 Enterprise feature. And that stinks because Windows to Go potentially is, that's not a game changer, but it's a cool feature.
Yeah, it's a very cool feature actually. Actually, I'm surprised they're not gonna put it in like Pro, you know?
I know.
Or they might. Who knows? They might turn around and just put it in Pro by.
They absolutely might. But again, if I was betting money, I would say
no.
So
I have a few issues with the way that this was being covered, and I lost my mind today. And one of these blogs turned around and they listed the new versions, and they said Microsoft reveals its plan to sell Windows 8. So even the wording there annoyed me.
Yeah. And it's too bad they couldn't have colluded with somebody or had some kind of a conspiracy, because that would have been awesome. So
this specific website not only sits down and makes things up, but they also list 32 and 64-bit versions for everything to make the list look even longer than it is.
Oh, actually, so that's inaccurate.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of inaccuracies in this post. Windows 8, Windows 8 Pro, Windows RT, Media Pack. They list Media Pack as its separate operating system. Windows 8 Enterprise, local language Windows 8, and then they go on and list the 32 and 64-bit operating systems. Media Pack is not an operating system. No. It's an add-on for Windows 8 that turns the machine into a media center.
It's not even that. It's not that even that.
It's not even that. Yeah,
it is a single classic desktop application. I mean, let's not.
And they're listing local language Windows 8 as its own operating system.
Actually, the language packs are a feature of every version of Windows 8. So that's.
So I mean, I just don't understand.
What's wrong with people?
Why do you have to make it into a big story?
Oh, because you're a jerk.
Yeah, because you know what you got to do? You got to be like, look at Microsoft again screwing up. There's only one Mac OS. There's 15 Windows.
I'm with you. I'm sorry. I should say I don't mean you. I don't mean you, Andrew. I'm with you out in the wider world listening to this. I wish there was one version of Windows 8. I do. But you know what? These guys have completely stepped back off of the cliff. And in Windows Vista, I just wrote about this in the book. Again, I'm not looking at the book, but I just went back and researched this. Windows Vista shipped with over 18 different product editions, okay? Because back then, 32 and 64-bit were separate. They brought that stuff in line in Windows 7. They knocked one version off. It was much easier in Windows 7. And the truth is, even though there were still arguably several versions, really, when you walked into a retail environment, you were basically talking about Home Premium, Professional, Ultimate. That was it, In this version, we're back to Home and Pro, and I'm sorry, this is a huge win. There's no negative take on this. There's no way to make this look bad. Yeah. It's just a huge win. It just is.
I don't know, Paul. It's it's mind blowing to me because
I'm sorry.
Just list it. Just say, okay, these are the different versions that they're doing, and there's not 15 different versions, and they're making it seem like there's 15 different versions.
Right.
And that's what I was amazed at, how they've kind of turned it into that. They've kind of turned it into like, well, look at Microsoft confusing everybody again, and they've kind of simplified it. I mean, it's not that complicated. I personally for Windows 8, I'm not 100% behind it yet. I don't know. It's still a little iffy to me because I haven't gotten the hang of it yet. So, but I'm not going to go and say this sucks, this is awful, because I'm not getting it yet.
Microsoft is an easy target.
Yeah.
They're just a target. They just are. They're a target like RIM is a target. They're a target like Apple was a target when they were nosediving and almost bankrupt. They're just a target, so they're in target mode. And I don't know that Microsoft ever rises.
Someone in the room said, Paul lists the different iPad colors as different products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so right, I did. So you actually, but look, no offense, you can go try to buy one right now and see how complex it is. It is complex to buy an iPad. There's no such thing as an iPad. There are 3 memory allotments, 2 wireless carriers, 2 colors. Do the math. It's a bunch of different versions. I mean, it is a bunch of different products. It just is. And, you know, that type of complexity is bad for consumers for the same reason with the iPad as it is with Windows. I mean, it is the same thing. You know, you have to figure out what the difference is.
But we've seen that you know, with especially with these Bleeds bloggers kind of spinning the story, we've seen this happen constantly. I mean, and we were discussing before the show, before we went on, and to kind of bring that up during the discussion, you know, when it's a website like, let's say, Colton Mac, you kind of know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I would think so.
You know, you kind of you know what it is. Your website, you know, you have Windows in it, but you're not necessarily 100% for Microsoft. You've been quite critical of them.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. No, I mean,
Not
but
necessarily,
people.
Yeah.
But people think that you are. You know, people go like, well, and they get upset.
People would assume that I am.
People assume, and then they get mad though. They get upset if you.
Yeah.
If you're against something that they're doing. I mean, we had something on Twitter where someone was upset that you were criticizing the Lumia's release in the chat on Easter.
Yeah.
And they were upset that you criticized it.
Why?
Because they found it disrespectful. Now, I don't know if they were disrespectful
to what, Christianity?
I don't know. I don't know. Microsoft.
To Microsoft.
I think it was disrespectful to Microsoft.
Okay. Is somebody trying to claim that the Lumia 900 is the Jesus phone or something?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but they got upset. See, I don't think it was necessarily that they got upset because of Easter. I think they kind of used that, but they were upset that you criticized something that Microsoft did, and we have this very one-sided.
I criticize something that Microsoft does almost every day.
Every day.
What do you mean?
But people get upset at you for that.
That's the difference between me and virtually every Apple blog on earth. I mean,
but don't people get upset about that?
Open-minded to the
sure, and there are some people that get upset. They think you know, why are you bashing them? You know, you're supposed to be for Microsoft.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
You know who I'm for? I'm for people that use Microsoft products. That's who I support. I'm not a Microsoft cheerleader. I'm here to support the people that actually have to use this stuff.
Sure.
Sometimes it's a win-win. You know, it's just great. When things are bad, I mean, I guess looking at it from the good news department, it gives me something to write about. I can help people. That's fine. When stuff is good, I'll tell you it's good. You know, I don't understand why anyone would be any other way. I just don't get it.
I don't think people see it that way. I really don't. I think people like to pick a side, and you're either, you know, you're either an Apple guy or you're a Microsoft guy or an Android guy. You can't be all. God forbid you pick all of them and you say, you know, they all work for me.
Well, okay. So, you know, one of the unfortunate boxes I drew myself into was, you know, when I started covering Windows, when I long before I started the super site for Windows, but you know, it kind of fell into that. This was where the mainstream was. You know, I went here because this is where the audience was.
Yeah.
Microsoft was general purpose computing. It's unfortunate for me from sort of a career perspective that is not necessarily going to be the case in the near future. And that's something I need to figure out because I do feel that Windows and Microsoft in general are going to still have huge audiences and huge customer bases. But it would be foolish not to worry about what's happening in the sense that not because I want Microsoft to win, but rather that I did not position myself as general tech guy, you know, or general purpose computing guy. I positioned myself as Windows guy, but I did that just because it was nothing really else at the time. I mean, that was where people were, you know?
Yeah. Now, one thing I found funny, there's still no mention of Media Center, right? I think you brought that up.
No, it's mentioned. So,
but have they discussed what they're doing exactly with it?
Yeah. There's going to be you're going to have to buy it, basically. Okay. And you can only buy it if you have Windows 8 Pro.
You're going to have to buy it if you have Windows 8 Pro. Okay.
They haven't said it this way, but almost certainly this means that you'll be able to go to the Windows Store, you know, probably click through and go to a website, but you'll download it from the web, install it. You have to have Windows 8 Pro.
Have they displayed what it's going to look like, or?
Well, the version that's in the consumer preview looks just like the version in Windows 7. Yeah. I don't actually expect it to change in the slightest.
Oh, you don't? Okay. I would imagine they would kind of update it.
No. It's there has been well, there hasn't been.
Well, it's a very, you know what,
very
Paul,
little in the way of.
It's a very interesting position they're in because they have a media center device, and that's the Xbox now.
Right, but you know what so there's a small vocal minority of people that love Media Center. You know, they love it, and they love it for a good reason, by the way. I mean, for that kind of thing, it is excellent. You know, there's no doubt about it. Most of us have moved on. You know, most of us don't need it, don't want it. Most of us do consume video services through set-top boxes like the Xbox 360 or the Apple TV or even our TVs, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, some people want this kind of HD / you know, cable card recording capabilities, and Media Center does it. So this allows them to get on a more stable, secure, performant Windows 8 system, but still have that Windows Media Center application that they know and love. So
sure,
it's, you know, it's not as good as, oh God, if they had just, you know, made a new version that was, you know, super powerful and did all this stuff, you know, that would have been nice. But I think that the audience, well, no, I know. I mean, I don't remember the exact numbers, but Steven Sinofsky blogged about how few people use this. It's some crazy percentage of a percentage. It's almost nobody. Most of the people that run this application ran it once and did so by mistake and immediately closed it. You know, it's a simple truth, you know, unfortunately.
We have a lot to get to, Paul, in the show, but we do have to take a little break and talk about our sponsors. Hover.com, domain names made simple. Big fan of Hovers. I just actually updated 3 of my domains this week. The reason why I go with Hover and the reason why they advertise is because I really believe in the product because they do a easy, clean... they have an easy, clean website where you don't really get confused when you're buying a domain. And people would say, well, why would it be confusing to buy a domain? Well, some of these other guys that are domain registrars, when you go to their website, let's say they have some celebrity picture, and they'll say $10.99 for a domain name. And you say, well, that's a great deal. So you click on it. And then the add-ons start. Do you want private registration? Here's another $8. Do you want certified? Do you want a certified domain? Another $10. By the time you're done and you check out, you're at about $30 for a domain that should have cost you under $20, way under $20. If you go to gfq.hover.com, you get 10% off your entire purchase, or you could use promo code WTT, that's for What to Tech, WTT upon checkout. It's easy, it's clean, there's no upsell, private registration is included. Another thing you could do is they also do email support, so if you want a domain, let's say you want... let's say for me, you want Andrew at gfqnetwork.com, you could get it through Hover, and it'll make you look a lot more professional than having a AOL email, because I know AOL is making a comeback these days. Go to gfq.hover.com. You get 10% off your entire purchase, or use promo code WTT upon checkout. Thank you, Hover, for supporting What the Tech. Now, Paul.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you something. Generally, when you go to buy a television, where do you go?
Where do I, like, physically go?
Yeah. If you want to go buy a TV, where would you go to buy the TV?
Well, so where I have bought my last two TVs is at Best Buy.
At Best Buy.
Now, before I do that, I research it.
Sure.
And we actually subscribe to Consumer Reports. We have access to their website, which is excellent, and you can look up stuff dating back, further in time, and also more products than you would see in the magazine. So usually research it that way. Sometimes you print something out.
Now, would you ever think of Ikea as a place to buy electronics?
Actually, yeah. So
you would? Okay.
We have my computer desk here in my office is from Ikea. Our kitchen cabinets are too. Not that means anything, but I think that when you think about the type of furniture that they have, I think they fit neatly into that category of companies that should be providing, Apple connectivity, right? Little iPod docks and, that kind of stuff. I mean, I could see that. Yeah. A stereo, or like a little desk you would put under your TV that would have like speakers built into it or something.
That's what they're getting into. They're going to start selling televisions. I have a video here, which is very fascinating. All
right. So, by the way, just so you know, I don't know a lot about this, but they already sell things that are sort of like televisions, right? They sell like microwaves, that fit into their cabinetry, which I happen to know because we had to replace one. And my understanding of this stuff is that it's rebranded. It must be someone else's stuff.
I'm positive it is. I'm positive.
So this has got to be a furthering of that kind of thing. You know.
Here's the video. If I don't get thrown off for having this video on.
Cables gone. They all disappear in the back.
Gone.
Never to be seen again. And you can also get it with extra storage to make room for your other.
We'll put it behind this cheap door.
Yeah.
That will never break.
Signals from the remote control
The hinges will stand for a lifetime. You could stand on this. A car could run through. Nothing will ever happen.
This door is going to snap off when you install this
the
thing.
second.
You know,
everything is going to just turn into powder by the time you're done.
Right.
And all this stuff is so good that we gave it a 5-year guarantee included in the price.
Oh, that's not bad.
The full HD Smart TV has all the necessary inputs you'll need. You can use the internet, look at pictures.
It's great that they're catering to the cat lovers and the old people.
So I actually think this is kind of smart because the truth is, people, you know, if you're going to shop at Ikea and in this store that's like the size of Rhode Island, you know, you're kind of envisioning a room, you know, and you could go in and they're going to have the chairs and the desks and the tables and stuff, and they can get, this is like the complete meal deal now, you know. I mean, the TV's part of it.
You know what they should start doing? I don't. Can you go and buy an entire set? Just say like, "This is what I want."
I mean, I've never shopped there for that kind of stuff, but like I said, you know, we've done the office furniture stuff is all from there.
How's it standing? Is it standing the test of time, Paul?
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually disappointed. You know, this it'd be hard to show you, but this desk has this awesome keyboard tray that they no longer make. They only have this cheap one now that I would never, you know, just typing on it would cause the thing to rip out of the bottom of the desk. But they used to have this awesome keyboard thing that I still have, and I wish they had. I would have bought 3 more, or at least 2 more of these things. The kitchen cabinet stuff is great. Actually, I mean, for whatever it's worth. I mean, we kind of shopped around. We went to Lowe's and what's the other one? Home Depot.
Home Depot.
But no, I mean, a lot of their furniture to me looks like the type of stuff you would give a college student. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and listen, the quality.
And bedroom furniture, like we have not bought anything like that.
The Malba, you haven't bought the Malba?
Or like the Groknor.
Yeah, I actually,
you know, that kind of stuff.
My for many years.
The best thing at IKEA is though. We need to have a
the meatballs.
Is the meatballs?
Yeah,
thank you. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
that's the only reason I go to IKEA.
I'll tell you, whenever I go, I have it. And my wife looks at me and is like, I don't know how you eat that.
No, I do too. In fact, I lost my family in IKEA the last time we were there because I said, "You guys go ahead. I'm just going to go have the meatballs." And then I don't think I found them for like 2 hours.
It's so funny because sometimes like they make products that are phenomenal and they last a while, and then other times it just the second you buy it just falls apart.
Yeah.
But it's so cheap. Like we have a table in our living room.
Yeah.
Like a little side table from IKEA, and we paid about $20 for it. The thing looks good, and we replace it every couple months. Like a scratch or anything, we're just throwing it out. We're like, oh, look,
so cheap. Yeah.
It's so cheap. You just buy another one for like $15,
Our
$20.
espresso machine is like that. But, yeah.
But for televisions, now this is interesting to me because
they're not exactly a trusted brand for television.
They're not a trusted brand, but it's almost catering to that designer category where, like, look at this. It's nice looking. It's that whole Apple style thing. You know, it's $1,000 for
I mean, if you
TV.
like the kind of minimalist look of this, I assume it's Danish furniture. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, like I said, I mean, the TV fits in with all the stuff. You know, do you watch Mad Men, by the way?
I do.
So did you see the most recent episode where he's showing off his stereo cabinet and he says, and it's also a beautiful piece of furniture?
No, I haven't seen that one.
All right, I'm sorry to ruin
thank
scene,
you,
but yeah, there you go.
Now the scene with the stereo cabinet is ruined for me. I won't be surprised.
We remember those old-fashioned 60s, 70s stereo cabinets where it was like mahogany wood and, you know, the speaker grill was built into it. It looked like some dry bar or something, you know.
Dale in our chat says, IKEA stands for I keep every Allen key.
Yeah, I do too. In a bag in my cellar, exactly.
Because you never know when it's going to come in handy.
I have every component part that's, yeah. You can tell, actually, it is perhaps an indication of my skill building a desk that I have a bag full of parts that were supposed to go on this desk and aren't there. And maybe one day it's just going to collapse onto the floor or something.
Yeah, you're always left over with extra parts with them. But I'm curious to see if any other manufacturer or any other companies are going to start doing this.
I find this a little incestuous. It reminds me of Barnes and Noble started a book publishing arm, which
Yeah.
I did not like, and specifically because some of the books they published, or the ones I were aware of, were computer industry, like computer books. I thought that was kind of crappy. Best Buy for a little while got in. They had their own little line of laptops many years ago, and probably have other forms of electronics. So
Yeah, what was their laptop line? Do you remember that?
No, I can picture it in my head because it was
Me
silver
too.
and black.
Me
and,
too.
It was decent for the day. I do not remember the name of it.
But most of
it's
the time,
sort of
they're
like the house brand. Like Costco has like Kirtland or Kirkland.
Yeah, but they all come from the same source. I remember like on the Home Shopping Network, they would call them famous brands. And
Yeah.
they would tell you, like, this is a famous brand laptop that comes from the same factory that they make those Dells and HPs.
Yeah.
And it was probably like Asus.
Sears in the early 1980s or late 70s, rather, sold Sears branded versions of the Atari 2600 and Mattel Intellivision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for televisions, though, there's only a couple factories that makes the displays anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what the brand is because it's probably coming from a...
Yeah, and buying them all at the same place makes a little bit of sense, especially, with the 5-year support. I mean, like I said, I tend to think of a lot of this stuff as college furniture. So, you kind of buy the set for your kid when he goes off to school, and it's like, and here's the TV, and it's warranted for 5 years. So if you don't get out of college in 5 years, that's your problem. But
maybe that's where we're headed.
That's enough time.
Best Buy's shutting down. Last week we covered Best Buy shutting down 50 stores by next month.
Did you see the list? I meant to look that up because I saw that they had announced finally the list. I was curious if any in my area were going to close.
6 in Chicago.
Let's see if I can find it.
Okay, I got one here. Is this the list? Let's see.
List of, here we go.
Okay.
Maybe.
I got the list.
I do too.
Okay. So 2 in Arizona, California, a bunch. Florida, Georgia, Illinois, a bunch.
One in Back Bay in Boston. That's crazy.
Let's see. Any in New York? New York, East River Plaza, Manhattan. That's the only one. Okay, so nobody goes there.
Yeah, Wareham and Back Bay in Boston.
I mean, if you look at it, the bulk of it is California and Illinois.
Yeah, they must have just overdeveloped.
And that's what happens. I mean, I remember the Gap did this a couple years ago. The Gap closed something like 1,500 stores, and they were saying, like, wow, they're doing so bad. But when you open up a Best Buy after Best Buy after Best Buy, you don't need to saturate the market with that many. We have our local brand is PC Richards here. I don't know if you have it up there, Paul. It's like the New York electronic shop. And
right. No, we did not.
They have built, we had a PC Richards for, as long as I can remember, a couple blocks away from me. And when Circuit City shut down, they took one, again, maybe 2 miles away from it. And neither one of them are doing great now because they saturated the market with two of the same exact stores with the same pricing in the same area. And they're huge stores. So if you look at this, in Kansas, 2 are going to shut down permanently in February. Already they were shut down. So I don't know. These big box retailers are shutting down. Maybe companies like Ikea and other stores will start doing well with this. With their, televisions and electronics on the cheap end. This is why I'm a little worried about Apple entering into this market.
I never did find that, or I didn't look this up, but like I said, there's a Walter Isaacson interview that goes. It's quite long. It's over an hour, I believe, from I think Amsterdam or the Netherlands somewhere. And there's a Q&A at the end where someone asks him about the TV plans, and he says, "Well, I very specifically didn't want to give that stuff away, and I'm not going to do it here." But then he went on to talk about it at great length, and the way he was saying he didn't say this explicitly, but really implied that the TV plans had nothing to do with a TV, like a device, but rather with getting everyone in that industry to agree to common licensing terms, much like the music industry did before with iTunes.
So, but did you hear the story about some famous art designer in France saying
Stark,
that?
Well, that's been resolved, right? Have you heard the end of this?
Well, Apple's denied it, but now they're saying, well, no, that might not be true. They're just denying it.
So he's come out and said that he's talking about the Steve Jobs yacht.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, it's not an Apple.
I thought we were going to get like an Apple couch.
The iCouch,
Yeah,
right?
the iCouch.
It like massages your butt while you listen to your iPod.
Yeah, everything is all in one. It rocks you to sleep, and the iBed and the iCouch.
I need this product.
So, I don't know. The IKEA thing, I'm not crazy about it. I wanted to talk about it because I found it interesting that IKEA is trying to get into this business when Best Buy is claiming that they're shutting down so many of these stores.
Because I think this is a value add for these guys. I think TVs are basically commodities at this point. You know, the biggest TV manufacturer in the world just a few years ago was Sony, and Sony is basically getting out of this market. I mean,
they've been getting their butts handed to them.
Yeah, and I think that the point behind what IKEA is doing isn't to compete with Best Buy or whatever. It's that people are already coming through the store. Here's a big ticket item we can upsell them on. And I think for a lot of people, listen, I don't, you know, again, I don't know a lot about this kind of retailing, but I would imagine that a huge percentage of IKEA sales are to the parents of college students who are in a city, town, state that they do not live in, but their kid is going to school nearby, and they are there in early September or late August and are buying furniture for that kid. And I'm sure from their perspective, they've already had this awful day where they've walked 12 miles. And the father is going to say something like, you know what, screw it, just buy the TV here. I don't want to go to Best Buy.
Yeah.
Because they're there, and let's just get this thing over with. You know, it's
Also,
not a bad strategy. I mean,
no, it's not.
I don't think
it's
it
not.
costs them anything. I think this is just
it's an add-on for them.
Yeah. So it makes sense like that.
And that was
no one's going to go to Ikea to buy a TV.
You'll be surprised.
Okay, well,
I think people will.
Fair enough. Okay.
I think people will.
I don't think that's the primary market, though.
No.
I think it's existing customers are like, oh, look, they have a TV. Let's just buy this.
It's interesting. They have a very loyal brand. There's even a website where it teaches you how to hack their products. I think it's called like IKEAhackers.com. And you kind of hack the product to do something else. So you can hack, a
like build it in a different way to come up with a...
Yeah, it's called IKEAhackers.net. Here's the website,
awesome.
Actually. I found it. So it'll show you how to do like a cabinet, but like make it do something else. So certain I guess this is a kitchen counter that they made into a table. It's very interesting. People are very loyal to them. It's nutty,
That's good.
actually.
That's good.
So I read this interesting article, and this is something we've been discussing for a while about how people are becoming cord cutters and where the cable industry is going. And I thought this would be an interesting discussion to have. But it was estimated that by the year 2020, basic cable, I mean just entry-level pricing, will hit probably $200 by 2020 for cable television. Right now, I believe my cable bill is about $240.
Yikes.
Which is crazy. But we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cable boxes for Fios.
Right.
But that's with internet and phone.
Oh, speaking of which, oh my God.
Did you
This
not
is
pay?
completely off topic.
Did you not pay your Fios bill and they're cutting your cable?
No, I have good news for you.
Oh wow, what?
Our this is fantastic. Our Fios cable box recently failed.
Okay.
It failed right after they did that software update, and the performance has been terrible. So we called, and I had my wife call because the account's in her name and whatever. But I said, listen, whatever you do, just get a new box. Don't let them talk you out of it. And so she comes downstairs and she's like, they fixed it. There was some remote thing, blah, blah. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
So for a couple of days we struggled with it. And then suddenly it just died. And so we returned it. But here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have a new box. It's not that Motorola thing.
What do they have?
It's some other awesome looking device. I don't have it yet.
Is it? It's little.
It's little.
Oh,
it's
they
not as
released
little as an
them.
Apple TV, but it's like half
They
the size of
released
it.
them, huh? I remember.
It
You know
has
what?
way more storage. It's quieter. But here's the thing. You can only order it online, and I have not done it yet. But apparently you go to the website, you have to pay for it. It's like $30 or $40 or something. But if you do it, you can replace that Motorola piece of crap with something that's actually really nice. Yeah.
Does it? So you ordered it?
I have not. In fact, you've reminded me. I got to do that.
I'm trying to find this. Where can I go on their website to get it? Because you know what? They were discussing this.
My wife has the address.
I think it was CES, and they had a video after CES on their website talking about like the future of Fios.
Yep.
And they were showing how, the cable box, and like, this is the cable box. But the entire message was delivered in such a convoluted way where it didn't make sense on what they were doing. They were pushing it as a green initiative rather than pushing it as a better product. So they had the big old box. They're like, this is what you're used to. This is what we have. This is where we're going to be by 2012, and this is where we'll be by the end. And it was a tiny little box like this, like the size of this. And they said, this is going to be your cable box, and you're going to save a ton of money on energy.
But
no, I think...
I saw a picture of it. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it now. If anybody in the chat room has it, I'd like to see it. But they also have a new router that's out, and
Really?
the Action Tac one, and it's red. It has like a red stripe, and it has USB connections to it, so you can connect
I need that
two USB external storage devices to the network.
I swear to God, the Action Tech router I have was made in 1979.
Oh, no. You know where it was made? I'll tell you where it was made. It was made in hell. And this is the Antichrist's way of getting back at society. This is what hell is like. I think of that Action Tech router as a definition of hell.
I think you're right.
Because it doesn't work.
I just want you to know I just choked to death. Thanks for that. But you're right. I think you're right.
By the way, this segment brought to you by Verizon Fios and the new Action Tech router. That would be funny, right? I just pulled
Advertisers will never have.
Yeah.
Part 1.
Assembled in hell. No, I think it's an awful device that they have for that router. But the cable, it was an interesting commercial that they had, and they were pushing it as like a green initiative, but they didn't say anything about like it's faster, it's better. They were like, you're going to save money on electricity.
I couldn't care less about that.
I
want this Motorola thing out of my life. I hate it.
I'm trying to find it on their website. I cannot find it.
I don't have I can't look because I don't have the login. I got to get my wife has this somewhere. I'll forward it when I find out.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. But there was an interesting article that said $200 by the end of the year, by the end of 2020. So the next 8 years, it's going to go up an insane amount. Do you think it's going to be that relevant to have cable television in the next 8 years? I don't think they're going to be relevant at the level that they are now.
I wouldn't have it right now if I didn't have kids. You know.
Yeah.
I would not.
I mean, between
I would look at the stuff that I watch. The problem would be discovering new shows, I guess. But every season kind of comes and goes, and you try out a bunch of different shows, and most of them are terrible. And ultimately, we watch a very small number of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think.
I
don't have to see them right away either. That's the other thing. Maybe this is just an age thing, but as I get older, like, watching, the first season of the Killing or whatever it's called, as it occurs, doesn't matter to me. I'd rather watch it all back to back.
I honestly thought you were going to say you were going to watch the first season of the Kardashians, but
no, that is a phrase you'll never hear me say.
Oh, I wish you did. I wish that would be something you said. No, I'm at Pfizer's website, but here's my idea
secret
with
love
this.
of the Kardashians.
Yeah,
no.
we are the same people, me and the Kardashians.
I could see that.
Yeah. So I was, and this was my thought with this before we totally talk about the Kardashians. Mm-hmm. By 2020, I really think that the cable companies and Fios and satellite companies have to take a different direction as far as a content delivery company.
Yeah, I do too.
And I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, if, let's say everybody's becoming a cord cutter, what could they do? They could become like a hub for the product. So, you know how you get Fios and you get Hulu and you get all these different services. What if they provided those services and then they took a cut from those companies? And that's how they did it.
Right.
So you would get, you would rent the box, you would rent the cable box, and they could start saying, well, why don't you get Netflix through us rather than relying on our on-demand service? And
I do think
they pay out to them.
Netflix is going to be a cable industry partnership.
They have to, and I'll tell you why. People are realizing how awful these on-demand services that the cable companies offer are now that we have Netflix and Hulu. I mean, Hulu and Netflix works. Regardless of what you think about the service and what
listen,
it is,
I just did this last night. I was stepping through this unbelievably awful Fios menu. Have you seen the way they do it now? It's going to be hard to describe, by just saying it without showing it to you.
No, because I give up halfway through, Paul. Honestly,
it is horrific. Imagine you're going up and down through a menu and you're like premium channels, and then you scroll over to the right, and for some reason on this menu there's a graphical thing with like pictures of 6 premium services they have. So you move over to HBO, and then it goes back to the regular menu, and then inside of HBO there are like 8 subcategories, and when you go over to those 8 subcategories, you don't go to the top one, you go to the middle one. So sometimes you have to go up and sometimes you have to go down, but you actually have to really pay attention to figure out which direction you want to go. And then the HD stuff, why would I want it not to be in HD? Like, why would I want the non-HD version of a movie? I don't understand that. Like, why is there not a setting that just doesn't show me that?
You know what drives me crazy? I love the Science Channel.
Yeah.
And like the wormhole, like I think it's like in and through the wormhole. Like I love to fall asleep to that show. Like I put it on and I watch it and I go to sleep.
Well, the reason is it's got that awesome actor's voice.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman, he's like a lullaby to me.
Exactly.
Him and his smooth voice and earring.
That's great.
I'll listen to that and I'll fall asleep. They don't have the full episodes of it on. They have the extras, which are 2 minutes.
I know.
So they have the extras, episode 1 through 6, but they only have episode 2 of the series. Or there was another one that we were discussing last week.
You're sort of underplaying it a little bit because the way it is in the menu is you can't tell it's only that because it has the same name as the episode.
It has the same name. It doesn't even say.
You only see part of it.
Yeah, you know what it is? The invasion one, right? You're talking about the alien one. One is making first contact, and the other one is
they design this to make you insane.
Oh no, I know
it is horrific.
No, it's a sick game, and once again, I think that's also made in hell. Their DVR, their on-demand system also comes from the same place that Action Tech assembles their products. It is so backwards. Right. It is so backwards. Like one of the shows that they have on is Stephen Hawking's sci-fi something. I forgot the name. And from what they make you think it is, they think it's something about Stephen Hawking's. It just says Stephen Hawking's episode 1, Stephen Hawking's episode 2. It doesn't tell you that it's actually a movie on the Science Channel. And I started watching this. I'm like, I don't understand what this is. And it was a stupid sci-fi movie. And I'm like, why wouldn't you describe that? It's frustrating, but they're going to have to adapt these companies. And, it costs them money and infrastructure to kind of keep on demand on. They have to manage it. They have to update it.
Yep.
They're going to have to scrap all this. And the smartest thing for them to do to kind of stop the hemorrhage that's going to start happening even more and more now with better, internet speeds and more people becoming cord cutters. My generation is the beginning of it, of the cord cutters. But my brothers, which are, 17 and 20, they don't watch anything on their TV.
Right.
They watch everything on the computer. They watch Netflix. They watch Hulu, all on the computer.
I certainly watch a lot of movies and TV shows on an iPad or a laptop, when I'm traveling. But I'm sorry, when I'm home, the difference in quality between my HD TV and a computer it's not even close. I mean,
no.
The experience is.
No, but you know what it is. But I think for us, and I'm a home theater guy. A lot of people, and I think the economy comes into play too in some weird way. A lot of people aren't going out and making a lot of money. They got to cut corners. That plays a factor. But the younger generation, my brothers and even my generation, we don't feel that attachment to cable. It's
not that.
My wife, by the way, she would die without it.
You know what it is? Watching TV or a movie in your home is a social event. Okay? I don't know what it's like for you guys, but we watch shows like House Hunters International. I think one of us pauses the TV at least 18 times a show so we can ridicule a decision that somebody made or their stupid needs that they have in this stupid home that they can afford to buy in France. God damn them. And, we have this conversation,
Sure.
Anyone who's watching a movie on a laptop or an iPad or something is doing something by themselves, and that's inherently pathetic. I mean, if that's all they're doing, and that's too bad. And it's not okay to go to a movie theater and talk during a movie, although God knows 50% of the people there are doing just that. But it's a different thing when you're home and it's your family, and it can become an interactive thing.
Yeah, but for a lot of people, they don't have that. So for the people who don't have that, they're not.
Family?
They don't. No, a lot of people are orphans, Paul. Nowadays,
okay,
the orphanages are packed with unwanted adults and teenagers.
Watching,
they're busy watching, film. But we have a different way of getting information. I'm huge with the podcast. I listen to podcasts all day and all night. But I'm a fan of radio. I never was a TV fan. I don't think I've turned my television on. Other than, I have a TV in my bedroom, but that's the only TV that I really turn on. The TV in the living room has been off for maybe 2 months.
Wow.
Nobody's turned it on. So I don't need cable television, but
Yeah.
I'm more inclined, right now I have it because Jessica likes it. But if I had the option to say, you know what, I don't need to get the channels. I can maybe get local channels with an antenna, but through the cable company, I could get, Hulu and Netflix. You know what? I would probably go through the cable company.
Well, yeah, they have the infrastructure and it's kind of hard to say. I mean, you're already kind of wired for the internet. These services could certainly evolve and be delivered completely over IP and be perfectly acceptable.
I'm just
in many
curious
ways
to see
they
where they
already
go. Live television is only beneficial for sporting events.
Oh, I was going to say live television doesn't factor in at all, except for sporting events.
Except for sporting, I can't
watch a lot of sports.
Yeah, I can't watch sports if it's not live. I can't do the fast forward thing.
No, I will never do that. And that's weird, but I won't. You're right.
So how do you capitalize on it? Well, if you're the NBA and you're MLB and you're the NHL or the NFL, you start offering the shows.
Those guys, they're so screwed because all of those sports, or at least a couple I'm familiar with, have blackouts in the city you live in. So I can't watch the Patriots or the Celtics or the Red Sox through some service if I live here.
Yeah.
That is completely broken.
See?
I'm sorry. That's wrong. I'm sure part of it is a little bit of a lock-in to ensure that these cable companies stay in business.
Oh, it's all a lock-in for the cable companies.
But that's a fact, and that stinks because
when we're going to find
I
out,
would consider paying for.
We'll find out if this move makes sense because Verizon is starting their own version of Netflix, I guess, and we're going to see that probably by the end of the year.
Yeah.
If that's successful in any way, or it starts taking over for their on-demand services, we'll see more of this in the future. But
I've never seen anything from Verizon to suggest that this thing could ever be successful, but we'll see. Even Amazon hasn't gotten their Netflix competitor right. And Hulu, for whatever it's Hulu was in the news today. They're talking about content. Hulu is one of the most worthless services I've ever seen. I have joined Hulu Plus at least 3 times only to get rid of it within a couple of days because I can't believe how little is there.
You know what's there? Shows like ABC. Everything on ABC's there, and that's about it. And if you watch ABC, you'll be fine. If you watch anything else, if you don't want to watch Grey's Anatomy.
I don't think I do watch ABC. What would be the top couple of shows?
Grey's Anatomy,
No.
Private Practice.
No.
And I don't know. That's about it.
Yeah,
That's all I know of. No. Maybe the CW. Maybe you could watch One Tree Hill.
See, I'm not sure. I'm happy to say this, but I have no idea what that is.
Oh, okay.
Not the CW, whatever that.
One Tree Hill. They just, by the way, Paul, it was the series finale. It was really good.
Okay.
I do want to talk about our next sponsor, and Paul, Paul, this is all you because I do not have an Audible pick of the week, but you do.
Okay.
And our sponsor is Audible.com. Paul does a Audible pick of the week, a audiobook pick of the week each week here on the show. Through Audible. You are a big fan of Audible. So am I, actually. I'm surprised I don't have a pick this week. I haven't really I haven't downloaded anything new this week, so I don't have a pick. But you are a big fan of Audible, and you have a pick.
Yeah. I don't know if, obviously I do a lot I'm very concerned with the computer industry, but there are other things that I like and am interested in very much, and one of them is automobiles. And if you are into automobiles, you probably know who Bob Lutz is, but Bob Lutz is kind of the ultimate car guy. He just published a new book. This isn't it. It's not available. The new one is not available on Audible yet, but his previous book, which is called Car Guys versus Bean Counters, The Battle for the Soul of American Business, is. And I love this guy. And it's funny because I think I might have mentioned this in the show notes, which I can't see right now, but I probably disagree with this guy fundamentally on virtually everything, politics, whatever. But when it comes to cars, he's right. And it's funny because I see these parallels between the car industry and the technology industry where people have these assumptions. You were talking about biases against Microsoft. There are people, and I'm guilty of this as well, people who have incredible biases against the American car industry and about all the, the waste and the stupidity and why can't they compete and all this stuff. And he makes a very compelling case for the fact that the people who believe these things have no idea what they're talking about.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And
I come from a family that's very involved in the car business.
Yeah.
In mechanics and everything with car design. So I mean, I've always been interested in this. But what does he debunk actually? Is there anything?
Well, okay, I'll give you one example. So, for example, in the early 1970s, there was an oil crisis, and There are different ways that the United States government could have reacted to that. One of the things they could have done was to actually try to reduce the United States government or the United States reliance on foreign oil. But what they decided to do was require the American car companies, but only the American car companies, not the European or Japanese car companies, to meet stringent new requirements for the vehicles. The American car companies to that date had been making humongous cars, as you know. Right.
Yeah.
And we kind of look back and we laugh on that. As we do on.
They're putting a 7-liter engine in a gigantic caddy.
Yeah. The thing but there are societal and kind of economic reasons for why they were making the cars they did. These were the cars that Americans wanted. And the Japanese car companies, European car companies were making very small cars rather, because they were serving markets as well that were tightly compacted, like you would see in cities in Europe and in Asia and so forth. And so they were uniquely poised to take advantage of this oil crisis and come into America with these new small cars and do well in that market, whereas GM was forced to very aggressively change all of their cars in a very short period of time to meet these new standards. And they failed miserably because there was no way they were going to do it otherwise.
Well, because also you kind of trained the consumer to think a certain way, bigger is better.
No, actually, it's the other way around. The consumers trained Detroit to build big cars. That's what they wanted. You got to remember, America's a different place than Europe. I mean, it's a new country.
But you know what, Paul?
We have endless supplies of resources and huge roads, and that's what we wanted.
But we still want that. I mean, even till
yeah, we do. And
30, 40 years later.
Of course we do. Of course we do. But we go kicking and screaming into the small car thing. It's just the way we are. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, it is what it is. But inside the car industry, as in any other industries, there are people in marketing, there are business guys, there are the penny pinchers, but there are guys like Bob Lutz, are car guys, and he's always been the car guy. He was the guy that didn't want to cheap out on parts, didn't want to reuse things across different vehicles, wanted to make unique, good cars, and he's responsible for some of the more interesting car designs. Although it's funny, I think his personal biggest claim to fame is he was the guy who killed off the Pontiac Aztec, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he did.
Described as one of the biggest disasters.
The Aztec was one of the worst. It was an awful.
Anyway, he's
car.
a fascinating guy. He was recently on the Colbert Report. If you watch that show, he's 80-something years old, and he did some enormous number of push-ups, more than the host of the show was able to do. And he's just he's an amazing guy. It's a very interesting book. About a topic that happens to be very interesting.
Here's a sample from the
Car Guys
book.
versus Bean Counters: The Battle for the Soul of American Business, by Bob Lutz. Narrated by Norman Dietz. Copyright 2011 by Bob.
They do this sometimes on Audible.
Yeah, it's
and
right in the beginning.
It's right at the beginning.
Bob
I like
Lutz.
it when it's in the middle.
This unabridged story? Not quite. The finance guys piped up and informed me that I had, by my hasty decision, just blown a roughly $50 million hole in the profit forecast.
I'm going to actually pick. This is going to be my next Audible book that I get. If you go to audibletrial.com/GFQ, you qualify for one free audiobook.
By the way, now that I've mentioned the American car industry, someone's going to email me and say, that's actually not what happened, Mr. Thurrott. In the early night, there'll be a story like that.
I know way too much about the American car industry, unfortunately. I
think actually people know way too little about it. And there are a lot of good books about it, but I think it's interesting to get the perspective of someone who, by the way, lived through literally all of it.
By the way, I do have to say that the American car industry has made a total 180 the last maybe 5 years.
Yes.
And
yes. And it's, by the way, it's a tough thing to overcome because we have now built into our children this sort of
don't buy American.
Common knowledge that you don't buy American cars, and that's tragic because actually they have made it.
I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. I had bought it. I was 18, and I bought it fully loaded. And my father told me don't buy American, and I ended up suing Chrysler, and I got my money back with the Lemon Law. And he turned around and he's like, I told you not to buy it. By the way, my father was a muscle car guy. He had a 79 SS Camaro with a bored out 350 motor inside, and this was my childhood car that my father had. My entire childhood till I was like 10. This is what he drove. He drove a 79.
I'm poised for midlife crisis car.
I'm getting there. By the way, I think I'm buying an 84 IROC. And I'm not even making a joke. One of the guys that works for me has an 84 IROC T-top that's fully redone, and I think I'm going to buy it because I want to fit the stereotype of a New Yorker with the IROC T-top and the gold chain.
Guido look.
Yeah, I'll go with it. I'll fit it. But that's our Audible pick. I don't know. We should do a car show, Paul. We should do. You know what? We need a drinking show.
I have a lot of IROC stories, whatever that's worth. I knew a guy who bought an IROC every year. I don't know how he afforded it, but my greatest memory of this car was we were getting onto the highway, and he decided I guess we were in front of him, but we decided as he was driving to remove the T-top and pull it in because it was nice out. But of course, when you lift a T-top up while you're driving, there's wind.
Sure.
And it took the thing like a sail, and it flew behind the car by 20 feet and smashed into the ground and exploded into a million pieces.
I learned to drive on an IROC. The first driving experience on the highway that I had was with an IROC where the steering came off.
Was it a stick or a...
It was an automatic.
Have you ever seen a stick in an IROC? These incredible... huge knob that it had. It was like a dinosaur beast from.
Yeah. No, I learned on an automatic. It was one of my friend's IROCs that was just beat up in every possible way, and I'm driving it, and he's like, "Listen, don't pull the steering wheel," and I'm like, "Why?" And I pulled the steering wheel, and literally the entire steering wheel just came out. Put it back though. Oh, the IROC. But we need a drinking show once again. And we need to talk about cars. So those are two things we're going to do. We're going to do What the Car instead of What the Tech one week, and we're going to bring back the drinking show because people really enjoyed the drinking show that week. But I think
I have the perfect time to do the drinking show, and it's going to be after I finish the primary writing phase of this book.
Yes.
Like sometime in early May.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll do the drinking show in May. Go to our website, guysfromqueens.com. You could also go to our streaming site, gfqlive.tv. Check out Paul's site, winsupersite.com for all things Paul Thurrott and all things Windows and Microsoft and Windows Phone. So are you almost done with the book?
I'm probably... I'm actually not sure where I am anymore. I'm somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 of the way done. 2/3 probably closer.
And you're aiming at May to finish.
Yeah, well, supposedly May 1, but I think it's going to go a little later than that. The problem is it's not really done after that, but this is the primary bit of it. The other issue is the first half of the book was too long, and so I'm actually getting chapters back now and cutting stuff out of it. And the subsequent chapters I'm writing, I'm trying to keep down page count wise, but it's hard. I mean, I'm actually surprised. Sometimes with a new book like this, you think I'm never going to have enough to write about, but then it's actually too much stuff. So I'm trying to pare it down so it's a reasonable size. I don't want it to get too big.
Yeah, very. I don't know how you do it, Paul. I can't even write an email coherently.
It's awful. Yeah, it's not.
If you want to follow Paul on Twitter, you can follow him at Thurrott. I am Andrew Zarian on Twitter, and subscribe to the show, guys. It's a big help when you subscribe to us on iTunes, on the Zune. We're on Stitcher, so subscribe wherever you listen to us. I believe we were like one of the top tech shows, I think, on iTunes last week, and one of the most subscribed. So I guess you guys are doing a good job with it. You listen to us. So definitely subscribe to us. You could catch it on our website, guysfromqueens.com. If you miss any portion of the show, we also replay it all the time. And Paul, Thursdays on the Twit Network for Windows Weekly, 2 p.m. One of my favorite shows. So watch it because I like Paul. Paul's a good guy. Yeah, that's about it. All right, Paul. All right, guys. We'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.